Many, many years ago, when the earth was still in its summer, there was a young man named Zoran, a young shepherd boy living far up in the mountains, being put in charge of a large number of sheep, being trusted by his parents to handle them on his own while they tended to other matters. And one day, while he was out with his sheep, far from anyone or anything else, enchanted by the essence of civilization, while he was crossing a small creek in a large clearing he had known since his youngest days of exploring the mountains, as the warm rays of the shining summer sun came down and encompassed all like the warm hugs of loved ones. Beautiful large ram, as black as coal, came out of the woods, approaching his herd from the direction of the mountain's peak in the sun. That made him think to himself briefly, enticed by its beauty and size, that he should catch it as a prize ram for his family to have before he started to approach it. But when it reached the closest of his herd to it, at the same time he was 8 arshins from it, it opened its mouth, unveiling a wolf's maw, and chomped down on the sheep in front of it, practically swallowing it in one bite. And first then it dawned upon him how truly monstrous the ram was. It seemed like it was a black pit of nothingness, its body swallowing every ray of sun landing on it. And after it had fully swallowed the sheep, it stood upon its hind legs and bellowed out a call, sounding like that of a goat trying to mimic a lion, before it started charging toward Zoran, now having nothing between them after it had devoured the sheep, filling him with the greatest sense of fear imaginable, when all of a sudden everything around them froze and the world went dark. Everything lost its colors and turned black and white. Everything except for the intensely burning sun, the blood of the slain sheep, and the faraway stars who had become visible because of the black sky, all three being colored bright red, when he heard a voice booming out from the sky, saying, "The face of evil shows itself to you. The end of all has entered into conquest against you and your existence. Will you embrace the seal of slavery and proselytize for the march to annihilation, or will you reject the call of burdenlessness and struggle for existence and be for the creation of eternal endlessness?" To which he loudly yelled in response, "I will fight! I will struggle!" When a three-pronged spear appeared on the sun, and a sword fell out of the sky in front of him, which he hastily picked up, after which time and color resumed, to the sky calling out, "Glory eternal!" The ram, now reanimated, and squealing like a pig, continued its charge towards Zoran, who jumped to the side, sword in hand, when the ram had come within his arm's reach. The ram, unfazed, continued running, heading towards the herd of sheep with its mouth gaping open and dripping with saliva, swallowing whole a little ram too slow to flee along with the rest of the pack as its second victim, biting its mother in half right after. Zoran, filled with only fear in every one of his senses, gripped by his deepest instinct, decided with every part of himself to flee, but he knew that he couldn't. He knew he had to step into his role and fight it. And as the gigantic ram was about to take its fourth victim, he threw a rock and hit it right in its face, stopping it in its tracks with an angered screech, turning its head towards Zoran, and again starting to barrel towards him with its maw gaping widely open. And first in that moment did he realize how truly enormous the beast in front of him was, larger than the biggest bear he had ever seen. As the beast was right above him and about to throw its body down upon him and devour him, he stuck his sword into its mouth, such that with the force of the beast throwing its body downwards, it directly impaled itself upon the sword, making it drive straight through the upper side of its mouth and directly into its skull and brain, causing it to fall over on its side, gravely injured but still alive. And while it was on its side, Zoran pulled out the sword, before they rose and ran towards the sheep once again, this time swaying side to side, with Zoran chasing after right behind it. And when it had finally got its jaws around another sheep, and had crushed the life out of it, but not yet had ripped it in half, he grabbed its horn and struck his sword directly into its eye, which made it drop the sheep in its mouth and let out a pain squeal, before it picked the sheep up again and knocked him down with its hind leg while he was pulling the sword out. It fled towards the frightened herd, which it was much faster than, while it was consuming the sheep in its mouth, managing to eat it in another sheep before Zoran could catch up to it again, and finally plunge his sword directly into its side where its heart sat, killing it, making its dark red blood spray out everywhere, painting the landscape to look like the aftermath of the fiercest of battles. Now being free from danger, he said a long prayer before he rounded up all of his remaining sheep and brought them back home, where he told his younger sisters and brothers what had happened as he waited for their parents to come back home. And when they finally arrived, he also told them what had happened. To which they told him to lead them to the body of the beast when the next day's dawn broke, which then came, and as asked, he led them to the beast's body that had remained untouched by nature. Around the body, its blood had stained a patch of grass as large as their house, an almost black shade of red. And after they had finished inspecting the beast's gargantic corpse, they started to skin it, with the primary aim of turning its pelts into a new cloak for Zoran. Because they all knew well, destiny had called upon him, and his time herding sheep in the mountains with them was drawing to a close, and that he had to leave them to venture out into the world. And because of that, they wanted to give him a last gift before that, along with selling the rest of the pelts to fund his travel. They set his day of departure to be a few months out. They set it to be one day after their family's slava, so they could celebrate it together one last time before he left, and so they could pray for his safety during his journey. And when the day of their slava arrived, they held a larger party than any other they had held in all the 20 years of Zoran's life, inviting the entire village and family members from afar to come and celebrate with them. On that day, almost every person Zoran had ever met in his entire life was there to see him, or as they had now started to refer to him as Zoran the Strong, placing many gifts for him and his family under that gigantic ram skull that now hung proudly on the side of their house, commencing festivities fit for a king. The entire day was filled with dancing, feasting, celebration, laughter, and prayers, all accompanied by the most beautiful music and singing the mountains had ever heard. When the evening came and the sun was about to lay down behind the distant mountains, they all gathered in front of old Deda Bogdan, who with the sun setting behind him and gusle in hand, started to play and sing a song about the deed of young Zoran and the journey he was about to embark on, likening him to the deeds and journeys of ancient heroes. Everyone present formed three circles around the two men and started to dance around them while chanting in a hushed tone a prayer for the defense of the young hero. And when the song came to a close, while the last rays of the sun still kept the party in light, Zoran's parents gifted him with what they had crafted out of the beast's pelts, a fur cap and a cloak which had been embroidered with beautiful white patterns and enchanted symbols all over it. Chief among them, in the upper middle part, was the symbol he had seen on the sun when time stopped. Whereafter he donned them, he started to say his farewells to the guests before they returned home. When the next morning came, Zoran also gave his last farewells to his family, to his crying little sisters and brothers, to his proud father and crying mother, to his dada that had written and sung the song tying him together with all his favorite childhood heroes, and his other grandpa who had taught him the stories of those heroes, to his only living grandma that had embroidered his new cloak, and to his cousins and aunts and uncles. And then he set off from his native Ozren towards the east, towards the land of the Magyars and Romanians. And as he met the foot of his native mountain, the dawn breaking behind him, a fiery golden bird flew over his head as he started his journey.